William stood at the large window of their London home, watching the rain streak down the glass. His hands were deep in his pockets and his mind was somewhere far away. Behind him, Kate was folding clothes into a suitcase, trying her best to keep her emotions in check. The room was filled with a heavy silence, the kind that comes when two people who love each other deeply know that something difficult is about to happen. Their story had always been one that people admired. William and Kate had met at university, two ordinary students who fell in love over shared dreams and late-night conversations. They came from different worlds. William grew up in a small farming town where everyone knew everyone, and life moved at a gentle pace. Kate came from the bustling city, where ambition and opportunity seemed to wait around every corner. Despite their differences, they found in each other something rare and beautiful. After graduation, they both returned to their respective worlds, but distance could not diminish what they felt. William would drive 5 hours every weekend to see Kate, and she would take the train to his hometown whenever her work allowed. Their families watched their love grow with warm hearts. William's mother would always prepare extra food when Kate visited, treating her like the daughter she never had. Kate's father, a stern businessman, softened whenever William was around, appreciating the young man's honest character and genuine love for his daughter. 3 years after they graduated, William proposed to Kate on a hilltop overlooking his hometown. It was a simple proposal, with no fancy restaurant or elaborate plan. Just the two of them, the setting sun, and a promise to build a life together. Kate said yes without hesitation, tears streaming down her face as William slipped a modest ring onto her finger. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony that brought together their two worlds. The early years of their marriage were filled with joy and compromise. They settled in a mid-sized town, halfway between William's family farm and Kate's career in the city. William found work as an agricultural consultant, helping local farmers improve their yields and practices. Kate continued her career in marketing, though she had to commute an hour each way. They bought a modest house with a small garden, where they planted flowers together every spring. Life was not always easy, but they faced every challenge as a team. When William's father fell ill, Kate was there beside him, helping care for the man who had welcomed her so warmly into their family. When Kate's company went through layoffs and her job was at risk, William worked extra hours to ensure they would be financially stable. They learned that love was not just about the happy moments, but about standing together when the ground beneath them shook. Then came the opportunity that would change everything. Kate received a job offer that seemed like a dream come true. A major international company wanted her to lead their marketing division in Singapore. The position came with a significant salary increase, opportunities for advancement, and the chance to work on campaigns that would reach millions of people across Asia. It was everything Kate had worked toward in her career. When she first told William about the offer, he smiled and congratulated her. He held her hands and told her how proud he was of everything she had accomplished. But that night, as they lay in bed, the reality of what this opportunity meant began to sink in. Singapore was not just another city. It was across the world in a completely different time zone, in a place where neither of them had any family or connections. They talked for weeks about what to do. Kate wanted William to come with her, and she researched job opportunities for him in Singapore. But William's work was deeply tied to the land and the farming communities he served. His expertise in sustainable agriculture practices was specific to the region, the climate, and the crops grown there. Starting over in a completely different agricultural environment would mean abandoning years of knowledge and relationships he had built. William considered it anyway. He looked into agricultural programs in Singapore, researched the farming practices in Southeast Asia, and even reached out to contacts who might help him find work there. But the more he learned, the more he realized that moving would mean giving up not just his career, but his identity. His work was not just a job to him. It was his calling, his way of helping the community that had raised him, and his connection to his father's legacy. Kate understood this, even though it broke her heart. She knew that asking William to give up everything he loved would slowly destroy the man she had fallen in love with. At the same time, William knew that asking Kate to turn down this opportunity would fill her with regret and resentment over time. They were trapped between two impossible choices, and there seemed to be no solution that would not hurt. They consulted friends and family, seeking advice from those who knew them best. William's mother suggested they try the long distance for a while and see how it went. Kate's sister thought William should prioritize his wife's career and make the sacrifice. Their friends were divided, with some believing love should conquer all obstacles, and others acknowledging that sometimes love means letting someone pursue their dreams. After countless discussions, tears and sleepless nights, they made their decision. Kate would take the job in Singapore and William would stay. They would try to make the long-distance arrangement work, with plans for visits every few months. They told themselves it was temporary, that they would find a way to be together again once Kate had established herself in her new role. But deep down, both of them feared what this separation might do to their relationship. The weeks leading up to Kate's departure were bittersweet. They tried to make every moment count, taking long walks together, cooking their favorite meals, and staying up late talking about their hopes and fears. William took Kate to all the places that were special to them in their town, as if creating a map of memories she could carry with her. Kate filled their home with photographs, wanting William to be surrounded by reminders of their life together. Now, as the departure day arrived, the weight of their decision pressed down on both of them. The suitcase was nearly full and the airline ticket was printed and ready. In just a few hours, they would drive to the airport, and their life as they knew it would change forever. William turned from the window and looked at Kate, seeing the same mixture of excitement and sadness in her eyes that he felt in his own heart. They had made their choice, but that did not make the goodbye any easier. Kate closed the suitcase and sat down on the edge of the bed, her shoulders sagging with the emotional exhaustion of the past few weeks. William crossed the room and sat beside her, taking her hand in his. They sat there together in silence, knowing that words could not capture everything they felt, but finding comfort in the simple act of being close to each other one more time before everything changed. The drive to the airport was quieter than any journey they had ever taken together. William kept his eyes on the road, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. Kate sat in the passenger seat watching the familiar streets pass by, knowing this might be the last time she would see them for months. The radio was off. Neither of them wanted music to fill the silence. This silence belonged to them, heavy with unspoken feelings and memories. Every few minutes, one of them would start to say something, then stop. What was there left to say that had not already been said 100 times? They had talked through every practical detail, every possible scenario, every fear and hope. Now, as the moment of separation drew near, words seemed inadequate to express what they truly felt. William glanced over at Kate and saw a single tear sliding down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, trying to stay strong, but her hands were trembling. He reached over and took her hand, squeezing it gently. Kate squeezed back, holding on as if his touch could anchor her to this life, to this moment, to everything she was about to leave behind. As they merged onto the highway leading to the airport, Kate's phone buzzed with messages from friends and family wishing her well. Her mother had sent a long text filled with advice and encouragement. Her best friend from university had shared old photos of them together, reminding Kate of all the adventures that had led to this moment. Even her boss from her previous job had reached out to congratulate her on the new position. Kate read through the messages, but could not bring herself to respond to most of them. Everyone seemed so excited for her, so certain that this was the right decision. But Kate herself was not so sure anymore. Yes, it was an incredible opportunity. Yes, it could change the trajectory of her career. But at what cost? Was any job worth being separated from the person she loved most in the world? William seemed to sense her uncertainty. He glanced at her and said softly, "You are going to do amazing things, Kate. I know this is hard, but I believe in you. I have always believed in you." His voice was steady, but Kate could hear the emotion beneath his words. He was trying to be strong for her, trying to make this easier even though she knew his heart was breaking just as much as hers. They arrived at the airport terminal with 2 hours before Kate's flight. William parked the car and helped Kate with her luggage. The suitcase was heavy, packed with everything she would need to start her new life on the other side of the world. As they walked through the automatic doors into the busy terminal, Kate felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. The airport was crowded with travelers, all heading to their own destinations, all caught up in their own stories. They checked in at the counter, and the airline agent confirmed Kate's seat and checked her luggage. "Have a wonderful flight," the woman said cheerfully, handing Kate her boarding pass. Kate managed a weak smile and thanked her, but the words felt hollow. How could she have a wonderful flight when every mile would take her farther from William? After clearing security, they found a quiet corner near the departure gate. William bought them both coffee, even though neither of them really wanted it. It was just something to do, a small ritual to delay the inevitable. They sat down on uncomfortable airport chairs, their coffees growing cold as they simply sat together. "Do you remember the first time we came to this airport together?" Kate asked, breaking the silence. William nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "We were heading to that conference where you presented your research on sustainable farming. You were so nervous about speaking in front of all those experts." William laughed softly at the memory. "I was terrified. But you stayed up with me the entire night before, helping me practice my presentation. You believed in my work even when I doubted myself." He paused, his smile fading. "You have always been my biggest supporter, Kate. That has not changed just because you are going away." Kate felt fresh tears welling up in her eyes. "And you have always been mine. I would not be getting this opportunity if you had not encouraged me to keep pushing forward in my career, even when I wanted to give up. You have sacrificed so much for me over the years." "It was never a sacrifice," William said firmly. "Supporting someone you love is not a sacrifice. It is a choice, and it is one I would make again and again." He took both of her hands in his. "Kate, I need you to know something. No matter how far apart we are, no matter how difficult this becomes, my love for you will not change. Distance is just geography. It cannot touch what we have." Kate leaned her head on his shoulder and William wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. They sat like that for a long time, watching other passengers hurry past them, caught up in the chaotic energy of the airport. But in their quiet corner, time seemed to slow down, as if the universe was giving them a few extra moments together. Around them, the airport continued its endless cycle of arrivals and departures. A young couple with a baby struggled with their luggage and stroller. An elderly man was being pushed in a wheelchair by an airport attendant, heading toward his gate. A group of college students, backpacks slung over their shoulders, laughed and joked as they headed off on some adventure. Each person had their own story, their own reasons for traveling, their own goodbyes and hellos. William watched these strangers and wondered how many of them were also experiencing difficult farewells. How many relationships were tested by distance? How many people had to choose between love and opportunity? He and Kate were not unique in their struggle, but that knowledge did not make it any easier. Kate's phone buzzed with a notification. Her flight was now boarding. The announcement came over the loudspeaker a moment later, calling for passengers in her section to begin boarding. This was it. The moment they had been dreading had arrived. They both stood up slowly as if moving through water. Kate gathered her carry-on bag and looked at William with eyes full of tears. "I do not know if I can do this," she whispered. "Maybe I should just stay. Maybe this is all a mistake." William gently cupped her face in his hands, looking directly into her eyes. "You can do this, and you will. This is your dream, Kate. You have worked so hard to get here. I will not let you give it up because we are both scared." His own eyes were wet with tears now, but his voice remained steady. "We are going to be okay. It will be hard, and there will be days when we question everything, but we are going to be okay." Kate nodded, even though she was not entirely convinced. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe him, because the alternative was too painful to consider. They walked together toward the gate, their steps slow and measured, trying to stretch these final moments as long as possible. At the entrance to the boarding area, they stopped. This was as far as William could go. Beyond this point, Kate would be on her own, joining the line of passengers waiting to board the plane that would carry her away. They stood facing each other, crowds of people moving around them, but in that moment it felt like they were the only two people in the world. William pulled Kate into a long embrace, holding her tightly against him. Kate buried her face in his chest, breathing in his familiar scent, trying to memorize every detail of this moment. She felt his heart beating against her cheek, steady and strong, and she wished more than anything that she could stay in this embrace forever. "I love you so much," Kate said, her voice muffled against his shirt. "I love you more than I can say." "I love you too," William replied, his voice breaking slightly. "More than anything in this world. You are my everything, Kate. Always have been, always will be." They pulled apart slightly, just enough to look at each other one more time. William brushed away the tears on Kate's cheeks with his thumbs, then leaned down and kissed her softly. It was a kiss filled with love, with promise, with heartbreak, and with hope. When they finally separated, both of them were openly crying. "You need to go," William said gently, even though every fiber of his being wanted to hold her back. "They are waiting for you." Kate nodded, unable to speak. She picked up her bag and took a step backward, then another, her eyes locked on William's face. He raised his hand in a small wave, managing a brave smile despite the tears streaming down his face. Kate waved back, then turned and joined the boarding line, her vision blurred by tears. William stood at the gate long after Kate had disappeared down the jetway. Other families around him were saying their own goodbyes, but he barely noticed them. His feet felt rooted to the spot, as if leaving would make Kate's departure final in a way he was not ready to accept. Airport security eventually asked him to move along, and he nodded numbly, forcing his legs to carry him back through the terminal. The walk to the parking garage felt endless. Everything looked different now, as if the world had shifted slightly while he was not paying attention. When he reached his car, he sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine. The passenger seat where Kate had been just an hour ago was empty. Her coffee cup was still in the holder, lipstick marks visible on the rim. William picked it up and stared at it, this small remnant of her presence, before carefully placing it back down. The drive home was even harder than the drive to the airport. At least before, Kate had been beside him. Now the empty seat seemed to echo with her absence. William turned on the radio, desperate for any distraction from his thoughts, but every song seemed to be about love and loss. He turned it off again, preferring silence to the painful reminders. Meanwhile, Kate sat in her window seat on the plane, watching the ground fall away beneath her as they took off. She could see the city growing smaller, the roads and buildings becoming tiny models of themselves. Somewhere down there, William was driving home alone. The thought made her chest tighten with emotion. She pressed her forehead against the cool window and let the tears flow freely, grateful that the businessman in the seat next to her was absorbed in his laptop and did not notice. The flight was long, over 16 hours with one layover. Kate tried to sleep but could not. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw William's face at the airport, the way he had tried so hard to be brave for her even as his own heart was breaking. She replayed their final moments together over and over, wondering if she had said everything she needed to say, if she had held him tightly enough, if she had made the right choice. During the layover, Kate called William. It was the middle of the night for him, but he answered on the second ring, his voice heavy with sleep. "Kate, are you okay? Did you land safely?" Just hearing his voice made Kate's emotions surge again. "I am at the layover in Dubai. I just needed to hear your voice. Did I wake you?" "It does not matter," William said, sitting up in bed. "I am glad you called. I have been awake anyway, thinking about you. How was the flight so far?" They talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Kate described the terrible airplane food and the crying baby 3 rows behind her. William told her about the drive home and how strange the house felt without her. Neither of them mentioned how much they were hurting, but it was there in every word, every pause, every breath. When Kate had to board her connecting flight, saying goodbye was almost as hard as it had been at the airport. "I will call you when I land in Singapore," she promised. "I love you." "I love you too," William replied. "Be safe." William arrived home to a house that felt too quiet and too large. Every room held memories of Kate. Her favorite mug was still on the kitchen counter. Her gardening gloves were by the back door. A book she had been reading was on the nightstand, bookmarked halfway through. William walked through the house, touching these objects as if they could somehow connect him to her. That first night alone was the hardest. William lay in their bed on his side, staring at the empty space where Kate should have been. He reached out and touched her pillow, remembering how she always curled up against him as they fell asleep. The silence was overwhelming. No sound of her breathing, no warmth of her body next to his, no whispered goodnight, just emptiness. Kate landed in Singapore 20 hours after leaving home. The humidity hit her the moment she stepped out of the air-conditioned airport. Everything was different here. The signs were in languages she did not understand. The sounds and smells were unfamiliar. The faces in the crowd were all strangers. She collected her luggage and found the taxi that would take her to the temporary apartment her company had arranged. During the ride, Kate stared out the window at this new city that was supposed to be her home. The buildings were tall and modern, the streets were clean and organized, and everything seemed efficient and fast-paced. It was exciting and terrifying at the same time. This was what she had worked toward, what she had sacrificed so much for. But in that moment, alone in the back of a taxi in a foreign city, Kate felt more uncertain than she had ever felt in her life. The apartment was small but nicely furnished, located in a high-rise building in the heart of the business district. Kate dragged her suitcase inside and looked around at what would be her home for the foreseeable future. It was nice enough, but it was not home. Home was where William was, in their house with the garden they had planted together, in the town where they knew every street and every neighbor. Kate checked the time and did the math. It was early morning in Singapore, which meant it was late evening back home. She video called William, needing to see his face. When he appeared on her screen looking tired but happy to see her, Kate felt some of the loneliness ease. "You made it," William said, smiling. "How is Singapore?" "Different," Kate replied, turning her phone so he could see the apartment. "Very different, but the apartment is nice. How are you doing? How was your day?" William had gone to work that day, throwing himself into his tasks to avoid thinking about Kate's absence. His colleagues had asked about her departure, offering sympathy and encouragement. William had smiled and said all the right things, but inside he felt hollow. Now seeing Kate's face on his screen, he felt a mixture of relief and sadness. "I am managing," he said honestly. "It is strange not having you here. I keep turning to tell you something and then remembering you are not there." He paused, his expression softening. "But I'm proud of you, Kate. I know this is going to be an amazing opportunity." Over the following days, they established a routine. Kate would wake up early in Singapore and call William before he went to bed. They would talk about their days, sharing the small details of their separate lives. William told her about problems he was solving with local farmers and changes in weather patterns affecting crops. Kate described her new office, her colleagues, and the overwhelming amount of information she was trying to absorb in her new role. But these conversations, as regular and comforting as they were, could not fill the void of physical presence. Kate found herself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling of her Singapore apartment, missing the sound of William's breathing beside her. William would come home to their empty house and cook dinner for one, the silence of the kitchen a constant reminder of what he had lost. Kate threw herself into her work, staying late at the office and volunteering for every project and meeting. If she kept busy enough, she reasoned, she would not have time to think about how much she missed William. Her new colleagues were impressed by her dedication and enthusiasm. Within the first 2 weeks, she had already made significant contributions to ongoing campaigns and had begun to establish herself as a valuable member of the team. William maintained his own routines, but everything felt mechanical and empty. He went to work, met with farmers, analyzed data, came home, ate dinner, and went to bed. The days blurred together, each one much like the last. His mother invited him over for dinner several times, worried about him being alone. His friends tried to include him in their plans, but William found it hard to engage with anyone, even those who cared about him most. 3 weeks after Kate's departure, William was inspecting a farm on the outskirts of town when he received a message from her. It was a photo of a beautiful sunset over Singapore's skyline, with the caption, "Wish you were here to see this with me." William stared at the image, feeling the distance between them like a physical weight on his chest. He took a photo of the farmland around him, the rows of crops stretching toward the horizon under a clear blue sky, and sent it back with the message, "I wish you were here too." It was such a simple exchange, but it highlighted everything they were missing by being apart. All these moments, big and small, that they should have been sharing together were now just images on screens. Kate sat in her new office, looking at the photo William had sent. She could almost smell the earth and feel the sun on her face. She remembered walking through fields with him, listening as he explained his work with such passion and knowledge. That world seemed so far away now, replaced by air-conditioned offices and concrete landscapes. That night, during their call, Kate seemed quieter than usual. William noticed immediately. "What is wrong?" he asked gently. Kate hesitated, then said, "I am starting to wonder if we made the right choice. I mean, the job is incredible and I am learning so much, but I miss you constantly. Every good thing that happens here feels incomplete because I cannot share it with you in person." Every challenge feels harder because you are not here to talk me through it. William felt his heart break a little more. I know, he said softly. I feel the same way. But we made a commitment to try this, to see if we could make it work. It has only been 3 weeks. Maybe it will get easier. But both of them wondered if that was true or if they were just telling themselves what they needed. 2 months into their separation, the cracks in their long-distance arrangement were beginning to show. The time difference made communication increasingly difficult. When Kate had free time in the evening, William was sleeping. When William woke up and wanted to talk, Kate was in the middle of her workday. Their daily video calls became shorter and less frequent, not because their love had diminished, but because coordinating their schedules had become exhausting. William tried to hide his growing loneliness from Kate. During their calls, he would smile and tell her about positive developments in his work. He had successfully implemented a new irrigation system for several farms, and crop yields were improving. But he did not tell her about the nights when he could not sleep, tossing and turning in their empty bed. He did not mention how he had stopped cooking real meals for himself, often just eating cereal or sandwiches because cooking for one person felt pointless. Kate was also keeping things from William. She did not tell him about the handsome colleague who had asked her out for dinner, or how lonely she felt despite being surrounded by people every day. She did not mention that she had cried in the bathroom at work after a particularly stressful meeting, wishing desperately that William was there to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. She presented a version of her life that was successful and fulfilling, because she did not want William to feel guilty or to worry about her. Their relationship was slowly transforming into something neither of them recognized. They were becoming more like friends who checked in on each other, rather than partners who shared their lives. The intimacy that had always defined their connection was fading, replaced by polite updates and carefully edited stories that left out the painful parts. One evening, Kate was working late on a major presentation when her phone rang. It was William calling at an unusual time. Kate stepped out of the conference room to answer. Hey, is everything okay? It is the middle of the day for you. William's voice sounded strained. I just needed to talk to you. I know you are busy, but I could not wait until tonight. He paused, and Kate could hear him taking a deep breath. Kate, I am struggling. I do not know how much longer I can do this. I miss you so much it physically hurts. This is not what I thought our life would be. Kate felt tears spring to her eyes. She had been trying so hard to stay strong, to make this work. But hearing William's pain brought all of her own suppressed feelings rushing to the surface. I know, she said quietly. I am struggling too. I thought I would adjust, that being apart would get easier, but it has not. It has only gotten harder. They talked for an hour, finally being honest with each other about how difficult the separation had been. It was the most real conversation they had had in weeks, and in some ways it brought them closer than they had been since Kate left. But it also forced them to confront a difficult truth. What they were doing was not sustainable. Maybe I should come home, Kate said suddenly. The word surprised even her. She had not consciously been considering quitting her job, but saying it out loud made her realize that the thought had been lurking in the back of her mind for weeks. Kate, no, William said immediately. You cannot give up this opportunity. You worked too hard to get here. We knew this would be difficult. We just need to find a way to make it work better. But what if there is no way to make it work? Kate asked, voicing the fear that had been growing inside her. What if loving each other is not enough when we are living completely separate lives? The question hung between them, heavy and frightening. Neither of them had an answer. They eventually ended the call with promises to think about what to do next, but both felt more uncertain than ever about their future. After that conversation, Kate found it hard to concentrate on her work. Her mind kept wandering back to William and their life together. She remembered mornings waking up next to him, lazy Sunday afternoons spent working in their garden, quiet evenings cooking dinner together. Those simple moments suddenly seemed more valuable than any professional achievement. Her performance at work began to suffer. Kate missed deadlines, made uncharacteristic errors in her presentations, and seemed distracted during important meetings. Her supervisor, a woman named Linda who had been in the corporate world for decades, noticed the change and called Kate into her office. Kate, is everything all right? Linda asked with genuine concern. You have been one of our best performers since you arrived, but lately, you seem to be somewhere else mentally. Kate considered giving a generic excuse, but she was too tired to pretend anymore. "I am having a hard time with the distance from my husband," she admitted. "I thought I could handle it, but it is affecting everything. I am not sure I can keep doing this." Linda nodded sympathetically. Long-distance relationships are incredibly difficult, especially when there is such a significant time difference. "I went through something similar when I first started my career." She paused, studying Kate carefully. "Can I offer you some advice from someone who has been where you are?" Kate nodded, desperate for any guidance. "The question you need to ask yourself is not whether you can keep doing this indefinitely, because clearly, you cannot. No one can maintain this level of stress and unhappiness long term. The question is, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you not?" Linda leaned forward. "Some people choose career over relationship. Some choose relationship over career, and some find creative solutions that allow them to have both, though those solutions often require compromise from everyone involved. But you cannot have everything exactly as you want it. Something has to give." Kate thought about Linda's words for days. What was she willing to sacrifice? She loved her job and was proud of what she had accomplished in such a short time. But she also loved William and missed the life they had built together. Why did she have to choose? Why could she not have both a fulfilling career and a happy marriage? Meanwhile, William was doing his own soul-searching. He talked to his mother about the situation, something he had been avoiding because he did not want her to worry. She listened quietly as he poured out his feelings, all the pain and confusion he had been holding inside. "When your father and I were young," she said when he finished, "we went through a similar situation. He had an opportunity to work on a research project in another state for 6 months. It was important for his career, and we needed the money. So he went, and I stayed here with you kids." William had never heard this story before. "What happened?" "Those 6 months were the longest of my life," his mother admitted. "And when he came back, things were different between us. We had both changed in small ways, had experiences we could not fully share with each other. It took time to reconnect, to remember why we had fallen in love in the first place." She reached out and took William's hand. "But we did reconnect. The distance was hard, but it did not destroy us. What I learned is that love is not just a feeling. It is a choice you make every single day, even when it is difficult." Her words gave William something to hold on to, a small piece of hope that maybe he and Kate could survive this after all. But hope alone was not enough. They needed a plan, a way forward that addressed the reality of their situation rather than just trying to endure it. That weekend, they had a video call that lasted 4 hours. It was the longest they had talked since Kate left, and they approached it like a business meeting, determined to find practical solutions to their problems. They discussed their finances and realized that Kate's new salary meant they could afford more frequent flights to visit each other. They talked about setting specific goals with concrete timelines rather than leaving their situation open-ended and indefinite. "What if we commit to this arrangement for 1 year?" Kate suggested. "I will stay in Singapore for 1 full year, build my reputation here, and get some major projects under my belt. Then I will request a transfer back home, or at least to a position that allows me to work remotely part of the time." William considered this. A year seemed like an eternity, but it was better than the vague someday they had been operating under. "And I will visit you every 3 months, he added. "I will take time off work and come to Singapore so we can have real time together, not just video calls." Kate felt a weight lift from her shoulders. This was not a perfect solution, but it was a plan, something concrete to work toward, rather than just drifting apart day by day. "Can we really make it work?" she asked, needing reassurance. "We have to try," William said firmly, "because the alternative, losing you, is not something I'm willing to accept. You are worth fighting for, Kate. We are worth fighting for." They ended the call feeling more connected than they had in weeks. Making a clear plan had given them both something to hold on to, a light at the end of the tunnel. But they also knew that the hardest part was still ahead. Plans were just words unless they could actually execute them. 3 months after Kate moved to Singapore, William boarded a plane for his first visit. The flight was long and uncomfortable, but William barely noticed. All he could think about was seeing Kate again, holding her in his arms, being in the same room with her instead of staring at a screen. He had counted down the days until this trip, like a child waiting for Christmas. When William emerged from the arrival gate at Singapore's airport, Kate was waiting for him. The moment their eyes met across the crowded terminal, everything else faded away. Kate ran to him, and William dropped his bags to catch her as she threw her arms around his neck. They held each other for a long time, both of them crying, not caring about the curious looks from other travelers. "You are really here," Kate whispered, her face buried in his shoulder. "I cannot believe you are really here." "I am here," William assured her, pulling back just enough to look at her face. She looked different somehow. More polished, more professional, but also more tired. There were shadows under her eyes that had not been there before. But she was still his Kate, and having her in his arms again felt like coming home. The first few days of William's visit were wonderful. Kate took time off from work to show him around Singapore. They visited the gardens by the bay, walked through the bustling markets of Chinatown, and ate at hawker centers where William tried foods he had never heard of before. Kate seemed happier than she had been in months, and William felt the tension he had been carrying slowly ease from his shoulders. But as the week went on, some of the underlying problems in their relationship began to surface. Kate had scheduled several work events during William's visit, networking dinners and client meetings that she could not get out of. William understood that her career was demanding, but sitting alone in her apartment while she was at work events was not how he had imagined spending their precious time together. One evening, Kate came home from a particularly long day at the office to find William sitting on the couch, staring at his phone. "Sorry I'm so late," she said, dropping her bag by the door. "The client meeting ran over, and then my boss wanted to discuss strategy for next quarter." "How was your day?" "Fine," William said, his tone flat. "I walked around the neighborhood, found a park, read for a while. The usual things people do when they are alone in a foreign city." Kate caught the edge in his voice. "William, I'm sorry. I know this is not ideal, but you know my job is demanding. I cannot just take 2 weeks off whenever I want." "I am not asking you to take 2 weeks off," William replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "But I flew halfway around the world to spend time with you, and I have barely seen you. When we are together, you are exhausted or distracted by work emails. I am starting to feel like I am just another obligation on your schedule." The words hung in the air between them. Kate felt defensive, but she also knew William was right. She had been so focused on proving herself at work that she had not fully disconnected even when William was here. "That is not fair," she said quietly. "I am trying to balance everything. It is not easy." "I know it is not easy," William said, his anger softening. "But Kate, when was the last time we just existed together without one of us being worried about work or time zones or the next goodbye? We used to be so good at just being present with each other." Kate sat down next to him on the couch, suddenly exhausted. "You are right. I am sorry. I have been so caught up in trying to succeed here that I have lost sight of what is actually important." She took his hand. "Tomorrow I am taking the day off. No phone, no emails, no work. Just you and me. I promise." True to her word, Kate turned off her phone the next morning and dedicated the entire day to William. They took a day trip to one of Singapore's nature reserves, hiking through lush forest trails and talking the way they used to. Away from the city and the demands of her job, Kate seemed more like herself again. They laughed and joked, held hands, and shared comfortable silences that did not need to be filled with words. That evening, they had dinner at a small restaurant overlooking the waterfront. As they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, William reached across the table and took Kate's hand. "This is what I needed," he said. "Just this. Time with you where we are not thinking about what comes next." Kate squeezed his hand, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "I have missed this too. I have missed us." She paused, gathering her courage to voice something she had been thinking about for weeks. "William, I need to tell you something. I'm not sure I can do this for a whole year. Being here, being this successful in my career, none of it matters if I am miserable and missing you constantly." William's heart leaped at her words, but he forced himself to think carefully before responding. "What are you saying, Kate? Are you thinking about coming home?" "I do not know what I am saying," Kate admitted. "All I know is that I thought this job would make me happy, that achieving this level of success would feel fulfilling. And it does in some ways, but it also feels empty because the person I want to share it with is on the other side of the world." They talked late into the night, finally being completely honest with each other about their feelings and fears. Kate admitted that the pressure at work was more intense than she had anticipated. and that she often felt isolated despite being surrounded by colleagues. William confessed that he had been considering looking for work in Singapore, even though it would mean leaving behind everything he had built. "I do not want you to give up your career here," William said, "but I also do not want to lose you. If I moved here, maybe we could find a way to make it work." Kate shook her head. "No, William. I have seen how the agricultural sector works here. You would be starting over from scratch and you would resent me for it eventually. That is not the solution." She took a deep breath. "What if I talked to my company about a hybrid arrangement? Maybe I could work from Singapore part of the year and remotely from home for the other part? Or see if they have any positions opening up at their regional offices that would be closer to you." It was not a perfect solution, but it was a start. They agreed to explore all possible options over the next few months, with the understanding that their relationship had to be the priority. Career success meant nothing if they lost each other in the process. The rest of William's visit passed too quickly. On his last night in Singapore, they stayed up late, neither wanting to sleep and waste their remaining hours together. They lay in bed talking about everything and nothing, just enjoying the simple pleasure of being close to each other. At the airport the next morning, their goodbye was just as painful as it had been 3 months earlier, but this time there was also a sense of determination. They had a clearer understanding of what they needed to do, and they were committed to finding a way forward together. "I will start looking into transfer options as soon as I get back to the office," Kate promised as they stood at the departure gate, "and we will talk every single day, even if it is just for 10 minutes. William held her close, memorizing the feel of her in his arms. "We are going to figure this out," he said with conviction. "Whatever it takes, we will find a way to be together." As William boarded his plane, Kate stood watching until he disappeared from view. Then she pulled out her phone and immediately sent a message to her supervisor requesting a meeting to discuss future work arrangements. She had spent 3 months trying to make this separation work, trying to convince herself that she could have everything she wanted. But William's visit had made one thing crystal clear. No job, no matter how prestigious or well-paid, was worth sacrificing her marriage. The flight home gave William plenty of time to think. He looked at photos on his phone from the trip, images of Kate laughing at something he had said, of the two of them together at various landmarks around Singapore. They looked happy in these pictures, like the couple they had always been. But William also remembered the exhaustion in Kate's eyes, the way her shoulders tensed when her phone buzzed with work notifications, the sadness that shadowed her features when she thought he was not looking. When William landed back home and drove through the familiar streets of his town, he felt both relief and sadness. This place was his home, but without Kate it felt incomplete. He went to his empty house and unpacked his suitcase, finding a note Kate had slipped into his luggage. It simply said, "Every day I choose you. Every single day. I love you more than words can say." William held the note against his chest and made a decision. He would give Kate the space and time she needed to explore her options at work. But he would also start looking at his own possibilities. Maybe there was a way he could consult remotely for some of his clients. Maybe he could develop online programs to teach his agricultural methods to farmers in different regions. Maybe, just maybe, there was a solution neither of them had considered yet that would allow them both to have fulfilling careers without being apart. The next morning, Kate had her meeting with Linda. She explained her situation honestly and asked if there might be any flexibility in her work arrangement. To her surprise, Linda was sympathetic and open to discussion. "You are not the first talented employee we have had who struggled with international relocation," Linda said. "Let me talk to upper management and see what options might be available." 6 weeks after William's visit, Kate received news that would change everything. Linda called her into her office with a serious expression that made Kate's heart race with anxiety. Had she made a mistake by asking for flexibility? Was she about to lose her job? "Kate, please sit down," Linda said, gesturing to a chair. "I have been in discussions with several people in the company about your situation, and I wanted to give you an update." Kate sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, preparing herself for disappointment. "The company is planning to open a new regional office," Linda continued. "We have been considering locations in several cities, and one of them happens to be much closer to your home. Not in your exact town, but in a major city about 90 minutes away." She paused, watching Kate's reaction. "If you were interested, there might be an opportunity for you to help set up this new office and then become one of its senior leaders." The position would be comparable to your current role, possibly even with more responsibility since you would be building something from the ground up. Kate felt her heart racing. Are you serious? A position closer to home? Linda smiled. I am completely serious. Your work here has been exceptional, Kate. Yes, you have had some challenges recently, but that is understandable given your situation. The leadership team believes you have the skills and the drive to help launch this new office successfully. However, I need to be honest with you. This opportunity would not be available for another 6 months. You would need to stay here in Singapore until then, helping to train your replacement and ensuring a smooth transition. 6 months. It seemed like forever, but it was also a defined endpoint. Kate would not have to stay in Singapore indefinitely. There was now a finish line she could see. I would be interested, Kate said, her voice shaking slightly with emotion. Very interested. When would I need to give you a decision? Take a week to think about it and discuss it with your husband, Linda replied. This is a big decision for both of you. Kate thanked Linda and left the office in a daze. She immediately wanted to call William, but the time difference meant he would be sleeping. Instead, she sent him a long message explaining everything, asking him to call her as soon as he woke up. Then she spent the rest of the day in a state of anxious excitement, barely able to focus on anything else. William read Kate's message the moment he woke up and called her immediately, not even bothering to make coffee first. Tell me everything, he demanded. This sounds incredible. Kate explained the opportunity in detail and they talked through all the implications. A 90-minute commute was manageable. William could keep his work with local farmers and Kate could have a challenging career that did not require living on the other side of the world. It was not perfect, but it was so much better than what they had now. But there is a catch, Kate said. I would have to stay here for another 6 months. I know we talked about trying to make it through a year, but honestly, William, I do not know if I can do 6 more months. These past few months have been so hard. We can do 6 months, William said with certainty. We can do anything if we know there is an end point. Before we were just floating in uncertainty, not knowing when or how we would be together again. But 6 months with a clear goal at the end? We can absolutely do that. His confidence gave Kate strength. You are right. We can do this. And William, we will make the most of these 6 months. We will visit each other more frequently. We will make every call count, and we will plan for our future together. Over the following week, they discussed the opportunity from every angle. William researched the city where the new office would be located and found that it was a vibrant place with good infrastructure and plenty of opportunities for both of them. Kate looked into housing options and was pleased to find that her salary could afford them a nice home in a good neighborhood. They video called Kate's parents and William's mother to share the news, and everyone was thrilled that Kate would be coming back. Kate accepted the position, and something shifted in their relationship. Now that they had a concrete plan and a specific date when their separation would end, the strain that had been weighing on them began to lift. Their phone calls became more positive and hopeful. They started planning for their reunion, discussing what kind of house they wanted to buy, talking about possibly starting a family once Kate was settled in her new role. William visited Kate again 3 months before her scheduled return. This visit was completely different from the first one. Kate had negotiated time off specifically for his visit, and they spent an entire week together exploring Singapore and simply enjoying each other's company. They felt like themselves again, like the couple they had been before the separation, but also more mature and stronger for having survived this challenge. On the last night of William's visit, they had dinner at the same waterfront restaurant where they had talked so honestly during his first trip. Do you remember what we talked about here last time? Kate asked, looking out at the water. I remember, William said. We both admitted how much we were struggling, how uncertain we were about whether we could make it through this. Kate turned to him, her eyes bright with emotion. I am so glad we did not give up. This experience, as hard as it has been, has taught me something important. I learned that I can be successful in my career, but I also learned that success is empty if I do not have you to share it with. You are my priority, William. You always have been, but I lost sight of that for a while. William reached across the table and took her hand, and I learned that supporting your dreams does not mean I have to sacrifice my own happiness. We can both have what we want, but we have to work together to make it happen. This separation has been the hardest thing I have ever been through, but it has also shown me how strong our love is. Not many couples could survive what we have been through. The next day, saying goodbye at the airport was still difficult, but it was different than before. This time, they both knew it was only temporary. In just 3 months, Kate would be on a plane heading home for good. They could endure 3 more months of video calls and time zone juggling. They had already survived 6 months apart. They could survive a little longer. Kate threw herself into preparing for the transition. She worked closely with her replacement, a bright young woman who was excited about the opportunity to lead the Singapore office. Kate documented all of her processes, introduced her to key clients, and made sure every project was set up for success. She also began packing up her apartment, slowly boxing up the belongings she would ship home. As her final weeks in Singapore approached, Kate found herself feeling nostalgic about her time there. Despite all the challenges and loneliness, she had grown as a professional and as a person. She had proven to herself that she could succeed in a demanding international role. She had built relationships with colleagues who had become friends. She had experienced a new culture and pushed herself outside her comfort zone in countless ways. On Kate's last day at the Singapore office, her colleagues threw her a farewell party. They gave speeches about her contributions and presented her with gifts to remember them by. Kate was touched by their kindness and realized that even though she was eager to return home, she would miss these people in this place. "You are making the right choice," Linda told her privately after the party. "I have seen too many people sacrifice their personal lives for their careers, and they almost always regret it eventually. You are young and talented. You will have many more opportunities in your career, but you only get one chance at building a life with the person you love." Kate hugged Linda, grateful for her understanding and support. "Thank you for everything. You have been more than just a supervisor. You have been a mentor and a friend." The flight home felt surreal. Kate kept thinking she would wake up and find that it was all a dream, that she was still stuck in Singapore with months more to go. But it was real. Every mile brought her closer to William, closer to their life together, closer to home. William was at the airport waiting for her, holding a simple bouquet of flowers from their garden. When Kate saw him standing there, she started running, not caring about her luggage or the people around her. William caught her in his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around as they both laughed and cried. "Welcome home," William whispered in her ear. "Welcome home, Kate." They drove to their house, which William had filled with fresh flowers and Kate's favorite foods. Everything looked the same, but also somehow better, more beautiful and precious because Kate had been away for so long. She walked from room to room, touching familiar objects, breathing in the scent of home. That night, they lay in their bed together, finally in the same place at the same time, with no impending goodbye looming over them. William held Kate close and she rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I'm never leaving you again," Kate said softly. "I do not care what opportunities come up or how much money someone offers me. Nothing is worth being apart from you." "We will never have to make that choice again," William replied, "because we will face every decision together from now on. We are a team, Kate. We have always been a team, but now we know how strong we are." The new regional office opened 2 months later, and Kate dove.